Supernatural Season 14. Well, this is the first meh season that they've done in a while, and it's not meh because the big dislikes that I have are really lowering it, because I've got those dislikes, but even if those hadn't been a factor, I can't help but think that this season just wasn't as good because, well, first of all, I felt like that this season kind of ignored a few things because, I do understand the main reason why everyone that came to this Earth from Apocalypse Earth is staying there. It's because Michael is there too. He's the head of the snake, so to speak. So the idea is get rid of the head of the snake, body dies. There'll be nothing left to really go for back on Apocalypse Earth. And there was a throwaway line where Sam and Dean make it clear we know things. We can educate you, then you can all go back, and then you'll be a lot more skilled. Okay, so I get why no one really came back. That makes sense. But to not even really address it, except for maybe in the first episode, it kind of makes me think that maybe budget had something to do with it almost, because for the first time since season 3, which was shorter because of the writer's strike, this season doesn't have at least 22 episodes. It has 20. Now, granted, that's only 3 less than what's been the case recently, but I don't know, just something about that doesn't totally feel right. Like, they literally just managed to have enough episodes, extra episodes at the end of a season to make up for the shortage that they had in season 3, and then now all of a sudden it has less episodes. Granted, it's not much less, but I just don't think it's a good thing if a show loses a couple of episodes like this and there isn't that much of an explanation. Yeah. And then, speaking of Michael, okay, so they do bring up his storyline for quite a bit, along with the other storylines, both ongoing and new to this season, having to deal with Jack, Soul Question, Heaven, continually having troubles that are not so obvious to me, but they bring it up enough times, or at least Amanda Tapping does, that it is happening. And the weird thing is, owing to the fact that all of these Archangels gone bad kind of thing, given how they're all gone, and apparently Lucifer is gone too, rather than helping them, it seems to be hurting them. That's an interesting way of taking it, I guess. But yeah, and then also Nick getting his own storyline. We'll get back to him, but that all helped in adding stuff to what was going on with Michael, and then how he just leaves Dean all of a sudden because he argues that he's got like a greater plan, but then the fact that he keeps changing vessels. Now, many would argue that's because of a practical sense. He's trying to stage multiple things in multiple places. But again, it kind of feels like a budget bit where you can't afford to keep bringing back one actor, so it's multiple. Even though we have had people do multiple vessels before. Lucifer, Ruby, and maybe Kaz? Yeah, but I don't know, it doesn't feel totally right. And after he gets locked, metaphorically, in that bar storeroom in Dean's mind, and that was an interesting way to bring back the Pamela chick, and I was actually able to recognize her amazingly without any help. But after that, even though it's established that he gets out for the last quarter of the season, it's just Okay, he got out. We gotta prepare for worst case scenario. But what? Now I get it, okay? They're like, we want to focus more on Jack. Okay, but you could have focused on Jack and done more, but I don't. I don't know. Looking back, it just doesn't feel right in my mind. Who knows? Maybe if I watch this again, maybe I get a better handle on things. I don't know, okay? Because after season 6, okay, I'm in virgin territory with this show, not knowing anything, except for very vague sayings, one of which hasn't even happened yet, but it could. But, it just... I don't know. It just doesn't feel right, okay? Just how they did this kind of a thing, if you ask me. But again, this emphasizes what I'm saying, where the show seems to do a bad job with its bad guys, and by contrast, it does the stuff with the good guys pretty well. Because let's talk about Mary in this season. She got a good amount of things to do and helped move along Nick's storyline, and I do like how they tried to give that storyline some independent from the boys, because that was something that I did like about seasons 11 and 12, how Crowley had a storyline that didn't really involve Sam and Dean at all. So it showed that it is possible to have two groups of main characters, not really have them interact, and it can work and not feel like two different shows, or, just things like that, okay? Yeah, because Nick, it felt unnecessary in my mind, but it was still a good effort if you ask me, because season 5, because Lucifer's in him for so little time, we did basically forget, I think most of us, that he was someone that was down on, not so much luck, but just given a horrible hand, so to speak. Didn't do anything wrong, it was just everything working against him. So I guess that is luck, but I just... The season solidified that it isn't luck, he just genuinely is like this. That's, if you read between the lines, that's the message I got. And him realizing, like, with that lunatic in, like, season 7 or 8, that, he's better with the bad entity in him, tries to fix it, endangers Sam and Dean, and then Jack offs him unceremoniously. Right, and then also how this is just another continuation of Mary getting in danger because of the stuff, but then how she manages to be resourceful enough to figure things out. Good job. Then, yeah, she does get unceremoniously offed by Jack, but once I saw the additional bit that they did where Castiel tries to, go to heaven and either bring her back or bring her back temporarily, because like Bobby in season 8, I think it was, he did leave heaven for a bit because he realized that he needed to help them, and somehow he had a unique ability to do it. Or at least cause a distraction, So he definitely was planning on doing something, and then they don't show Mary, most likely because they couldn't afford to get a Jeffrey Dean Morgan to appear in more than one episode. That would be my guess. But the line where he said that he saw her and saw that she was content with what had happened and where she was then, reunited with actual John, suddenly that made it A-okay in my mind. Because I'm sure that there's some people who complain about how a lot of the good guys get off to the show unceremoniously, but I don't know. I've always felt like that they did good with the good guys bits. I mean, like, the first time I saw season 5, I was annoyed about what happened with Ellen and Joe, but given how both of them appeared in a later episode, and how for the Joe bit it really was Joe, whereas for Ellen it was a different Ellen resurrected because the timeline had been messed with. Because that happened suddenly, I'm like, okay, yeah. And then a Rufus, yeah, that did kind of come out of nowhere, but it fit in line with the show's mythology. It's like, that guy had been hunting for decades. Been at it that long, that's probably how you were going to go out. And even then, they brought him back a couple of times, so suddenly, yeah. I don't even care that one of them was just a flashback. The episode where we helped Bobby with the Wraith, that was enough in my mind. And you saw that he wasn't bitter about it. Well, he was a bit bitter, but he's like, okay. Huh? So, right. It's not the good guys that have the problem, it's what they're doing with the bad guys, or, to include an additional category, people that are supposed to be the good guys, then they end up going bad, like almost all of these angel entities, Zachariah, Ural, every archangel, Anna, and apparently Chuck. I'll get back to him. But yeah, that's where the problem is, I think, with these characters. Ruby was not a good person gone bad. She just helped Sam and Dean, even when it was Kate Cassidy as Ruby. She made it clear that she wasn't telling them everything. She was without question hiding something, and they knew it. But, yeah. Okay, Ruby was never a good person. She just helped. And then because of the chemistry between Sam and Genevieve on the show and real life... I mean, Ruby... Jeez, Genevieve is the real person! Okay, that was a fair, but you know what I was trying to say. Okay, right. Okay, so since I brought up Chuck, I figure I might as well mention him. Him going bad? Well, okay, I don't know if we can call it bad or if we can call it just stupid. That's the label I'm more inclined to use, okay? Because just... Like, I get the fact that he decided to step in, okay, after not doing anything for the last couple of seasons, recognizing, yeah, this is serious enough, I should do something, but then, instead of taking his, I guess, more typical approach, or something that we would call more rational, he pulls a death in season 10 right at the end, tries to get the boys to off a member of their group, and then they just turn on him. But of course, unlike Death, you know, he's got even more powers, so he's able to... Okay, so he wasn't able to stop the bullet from getting into him, but you notice that it affected Sam more than him. Because Chuck, without question, was hurt, but he just stumbled. Sam, it hurt a lot, although, of course, because of his adrenaline, he didn't feel it as much as he should have. It can happen, but then he literally fell onto the ground. People have that happen when they get shot a lot of the time. They just, even though it's just a tiny impact, just the jolt that goes through your body, I guess. Right. Yeah, so he's able to not have it affect him as much, and then he's like, okay, then if this is how you want to play it, I'm going to do Walking Dead on all of you and release everything. Just what? Just why didn't you just teleport Jack away? You know, like Death was originally planning to do to Dean. Or just come up with something better. Just like, yeah, that to me is not God going bad. That is God being stupid. Now, okay. To be fair, is this insanely unlike the Chuck that we saw in season 11? Not so much. much. It's still a step, but if you compare Chuck from season 11 to Chuck in season 5, suddenly you realize, is this the writers meddling up their more beloved recurring characters again? And you know how, like, Rob Benedict, the actor who plays Chuck, you notice how he isn't on the special features? It doesn't say anything at the Comic-Con? I mean, whoa. The Comic-Cons occur before the season starts. Sorry. And they don't know what's going on in the season. They know a bit of where they're going, but they don't know all of it. So yeah. So the Comic-Con, literally that could not happen. But notice how he's not in the special features? And how, when I looked on the Supernatural Wiki or Wikipedia, I couldn't really find anything detailing people's thoughts. To me, that's kind of telling how people just started talking about the show less. Yeah. And then, like, that cliffhanger, like, I really do not think they're going to continue using that Walking Dead theme, especially since we actually saw a couple zombies lunge at Dean and Sam, and Kaz is there also, and I know for a fact Sam gets tackled, okay? So the only way those guys are getting out of there is if somebody other than Kaz, because Kaz had more than enough time to do it, if someone other than Kaz, Deus Ex Machina, them out. And then, if they continue that theme into next season, it's just like, this show is Walking Dead? No. This is not The Walking Dead. Okay, but I do know for at least the first half of the show, zombies actually are not featured nearly as much as you would think. The real bad guys in at least the first half of the show are... Spoiler alert, I'll give you a couple of seconds. Here... Oh, God, how did I do that? Well, anyway. The real bad guys for the first half of the show are human! Huh? So it is a strike for The Walking Dead, but this is not The Walking Dead! Right, so if they don't end up using it, it's like, well, then what did you even do that for? Because I know that there was one hook that basically didn't go anywhere, though I forget what season it was. Maybe it was the Darkness appearing at the end of season 10, maybe, but, yeah, so if you end up using it, you're going to have to come up with a Deus Ex Machina that'll probably not make any sense, because Jack isn't there to help, even though I am curious to see what Billy's going to do. Dude, still not a fan, but some of the way that she acts, I'll give her that. Although that still doesn't explain Chuck's behavior. I like the old Death better, so then why didn't you just create Death into a different meat suit? Why did you get another entity to be Death? Huh? That doesn't make any sense to me. Right, okay. Okay. Yeah. Oh, John! I completely forgot about John. Well, that was great. I love that. Yes, he only comes back for one episode, and yes, it is not the John, but it's close enough, because he only didn't remember the last year and change of his life. He just doesn't remember the last hurrah, so to speak, okay? And they filled him in, and he goes, that sounds like something I do. Huh? Right, so this allowed Sam and Dean, especially Sam, to say goodbye. Oh, wait a minute. I think, wasn't Dean the one actually in the hospital? Yeah, because he had the Wraith. Right, well, regardless, they were both able to say goodbye to him. Yeah, you've got the suspension of disbelief that the actor looks older, but we're accustomed to seeing that in a show like this, and even then, if you're a generation above the main characters, well, of course you're going to end up looking older. I'm fine with that. It really doesn't bother me. Yeah. Me. Plus, you could argue the parallel Earth kind of thing, where he just happened to age a little more on the outside. Right. But, yeah, that was great. And then the bits where both of them express their sorrow for each other, and yet they make it clear that they are grateful to John, both as the hunter and as the dad, because, come on, without John doing what they did, Sam and Dean wouldn't have the knowledge that they've been able to use to save so many people. So yeah, he was a pain, but we needed John. Yes, they did make John less and less likable in a lot of episodes, but two things. One, that was after they had tried to get him back for season 4, but they couldn't because Jeffrey Dean Morgan was filming Watchmen as the comedian, which in the special features he oddly doesn't include as his more memorable roles. I think that is, honestly, but this show and The Walking Dead, yeah, makes sense that he'd include those. But yeah, so that was after they couldn't afford him, and all of those scenes where they make him less and less likable occurred before season 1. Convenient loophole, even though that was the show trying to get you to like John less and less. It was genuine, but yeah. John had problems, but we all do. What? No such thing as a perfect parent. You gotta have the good and the bad, and sometimes in order to build somebody, you gotta break them down, or kind of beat them to a pulp. David Schwimmer's character in Band of Brothers. He put those guys through a lot during boot camp / basic training, and they hated him for it, but the real life people were actually grateful for the training that he gave them, knowing that it actually helped them later on. They actually met the real-life Sobel's son in real life, and they both did their best to thank him for what his father had done for them. My dad, right after high school, we had a big falling out, and he put me in a situation that did make me a better person, but I don't look fondly upon those years in community college for a bunch of reasons, some of which are trivial, some of which have nothing to do with my dad. Yeah, but, all great examples, you know? Yeah. So yeah, John, you did good by these guys. Wasn't easy, but, yeah. I'm glad that they had that little bit. So yeah, once again, I spent a lot of time on the negatives rather than the positives. I really hate that I keep doing that, but I'm not the type that sugarcoats things. If I have an issue, I do my best to point it out. Yes, I'm being repetitive, but it's, in essence, the same mistake over and over again. They're just changing the person that it's happening to, in my mind. Oh, well, there's only one more season, so... Right. See ya.